let's try to argue even with ourselves. So Mr. Nelson can say, okay, here are arguments against my own idea. My wife always yells at me because sometimes she says, well, you're arguing pro this and you're arguing con that particular argument. So where are you on this issue? I said, well, I'm trying to figure out where I'm on this issue because it's through this discussion we try to find and adjust our position because there are arguments on both sides sometimes. And that's what I want to happen here. There's no preconceived ideas that, oh, okay, merit pay is coming. Now, how are we going to push it down the throat of the teachers and tell them what to do? That's not it. Even so, I get letters like this. How dare you allow this kind of thing to happen in Tiverton, that we have this type of workshop? Well, I dare to do it because, and I will always do this, because there's freedom of speech. And those people who wrote these letters, they would better read U.S. Constitution. I read it for the first time when I was in my late 20s. But they're supposed to read it when they were in school, and they're here for a long, long time, longer than I am. And that's what's going to happen. We can talk about it. So, let's just go with it.
I did have one final question, just for clarification again. Under the action plan, Mr. Nelson, one of the steps you list is seek passage at the financial town meeting. And I wondered what exactly would you be seeking passage of at the financial town meeting?
Well, that would be dependent on exactly what type of program we come up with. So if at the local level it would need additional funding, and that was a separate item, it might need some sort of exposure at a financial town meeting. Okay. It might not.
So you were...
If it's a contract issue specifically, then it might not go to a financial town meeting.
But at the financial town meeting, that would be an additional line item to fund the merit pay bonuses then?
It could be. That's a speculation. Okay. And by the way, and I'm not suggesting that it's at this financial town meeting or the next one. It's all dependent on whatever progress we happen to show.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Anything else?
Please.
Oh, no.
You will be grilled today.
That's okay.
But that's your fault because you started it.
That's okay. It's my fault.
No, I just had a few things to add because I had done a bit of research just to see what was out there and who's currently studying these possible proposals in different states. Right now, University of Missouri, Columbia, Economic Policy Institute, University of Michigan, Texas A&M, Mathematica Policy Research Institute, University of Arkansas, Wisconsin Center of Education and Research, University of Chicago, and the RAND Corporation, and the University of Colorado in Denver, as well as Vanderbilt University, the Peabody College of Education, has obtained a grant for the National Center of Performance Incentives, a federally funded center of research and development, conducts a series of supplemental research initiatives to enhance the scholarly and practical knowledge on performance incentives in education, evaluating programs' impact on both students and teachers, including measures of student achievement and teacher retention and mobility. They are also studying the changes in teacher behaviors and the school's organizational dynamics as the programs mature. I have a few good papers that I found, if anybody would be interested in writing them down. So I didn't print everything out, I printed enough, but
I don't know how do you think we should do this? Because probably a lot of us here, I'm talking about everyone in the room, will have different resources. Can we, through some organized fashion, like each one, collect this information, put it in one sheet, just cut and paste without any editing, and make it available to everyone at some point? I don't want to put anything more on the shoulders, but what do you think? How we could handle this? Because now, what's going to happen is, if what we could do, if you have something in writing, a sheet of paper with some resources, links, you can give it to us, and maybe we can put it in some way together. What do you think?
that might be good for a future meeting to be able just to photocopy everything that everybody had, so those would be available for
the
people.
school resources too much, that if someone is going to bring the pile of things.
Oh, I don't mean the actual documents,
Just
but the
links.
links.
Yeah,
Or
just
the reference, the citation to it. I think we may run into copyright issues if we make multiple copies of a journal article.
Yeah.
I think what you post will be determined by the outcome of the discussion, not to not give you an answer, but I think you need to hear from everybody. I have a whole notebook full of
Yeah, I know.
citations, both pro and con.
Right.
So the question comes down to, I think the committee needs to hear the input and then determine where to go. And if the issue, if you determine that the issue needs further study, then I'd recommend you put the, these documents online. But if the committee chooses to say, well, we don't want to pursue it further, then I think it answers itself. So I think it depends on how you, the committee, wants to proceed after you hear everyone.
So, well, this was, my reaction was in response because Mrs. Coulter was trying to give everyone the links she was using, and these, some of these links are pretty lengthy, and you miss one letter. And
Oh, actually,
your
it was the
access.
paper. I just was referring. I can speak to this to you afterwards and get some questions.
Okay.
And I wanted to correct myself from the last meeting. I had stated that there were only 10 states that were currently participating, and I was remiss. That was out of the Leaders and Laggards study. There's actually 28 currently that are participating. And within those 28 states, there are 58 individual plans that I was able to look up. And within the 58 original of individual plans, there are only 10 that are sponsored at the local level. There were 33 national initiatives and 15 state initiatives, and most of the state and national plans were grant funded. There were a few that were, the money came directly from the state, but most of those were individual grants. So those are just a few things that I was able to dig up just in a quick internet search. So.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to step up?
Justin Katz, Arbiters. I didn't plan to make any comments tonight, but just in response to Ms. Herman's questions for Mr. Nelson, I looked up the Texas TEAG program study. Apparently, according to Dallas Morning News, it focused on the way the program was designed and didn't include whether in general it's a good idea. In fact, the legislature in Texas has already approved another $200 million to fund a separate program that's begun, but it's too early for data to come back. Also, in a
The
quick...
article did state, there is no systematic evidence that TEAG had an impact on student achievement gains, according to researchers for Texas A&M, Vanderbilt University, and University of Missouri. They are
Correct. They
considering a
said-
different program to
Right.
see if it will have an effect.
Right,
Yeah.
but TEAG itself was poorly designed. One of the issues if we take this sort of thing up is that the bonuses have to be a significant amount. Is one of the things they found. If it's too small, why bother with any extra work? But also I wanted to point out in my quick Google study, Google search while sitting there, University of Florida study, pay incentives for teachers had a positive effect on student test scores, more so than smaller class sizes or stricter requirements for attendance. The Achievement Challenge pilot program, a study of economists in Arkansas, merit pay for teachers can improve student test scores. These are just a few things. I'll forward these links if you intend to post them. I did want to point out, though, that there are studies that show that it is successful, and that the Texas one wasn't saying the concept was poor, just the implementation.
Thank you.